Hello and welcome to the 8th episode in our Crusader Kings 3 tutorial series, version 1.0.3. Today, we're going to be taking a look at vassal management, feudal contracts, and factions. So to begin, let's go ahead and open up our vassals tab. As you can see here, this is listed all the vassals. The powerful vassals are all listed first, followed by everyone else. It shows you their relationship to you, their contracts, the realm size, as well as particular levies that they provide to you, as well as all of their statistics. You can also change the way this is listed by going to the character finder, and you can change the relationship by rank, their age, their military strength, and whether or not they actually like you. As you can see here, we have quite a few courtiers and vassals which absolutely abhor us. For instance, the Bishop Prince here has a negative 90 opinion of us because he is our rival. Now, let's see if we can't start with powerful vassals. Powerful vassals have particular sway in your country. You cannot change crown laws if they dislike you. For instance, if we wanted to go ahead and change our succession here, we would be unable to do so because one or more powerful vassals has a negative opinion. So, any tort of crown law or anything like that, you're going to have to make sure that your 5 powerful vassals have somewhat of opinion of you. The hard part when you're playing as a Catholic or a Orthodox character is that you can't willingly change who your Archbishop is. As you can see here, we do not have revocable clerical appointment, which means one of your 5 powerful vassals will always be upset with you in some way or another with the minus 40 opinion malice for not being on the council. That is something you're going to have to consider and really pay attention to, especially if they happen to have an extreme amount of power in the realm. He has a decent amount, but let's just start off with fixing the issue with our spy master. As you can see here, he has a negative 25 opinion of us because he desires this county. If we go and we click on it, we're going to see that he is our direct vassal despite not actually being our rightful liege. Not only does this mean we get less taxes and less levies, it also upsets this duke who happens to have that as his de jure territory. So we can go over here, grant a vassalage, and we can shift that underneath him like so. And all of a sudden, he gains 40 opinion for granting him the vassalage, as well as loses that minus 25 opinion malice for desiring the county. It is extremely important that your counselors and powerful vassals like you, especially your spy master, who can plot to kill you, overthrow you, and a whole manner of other hostile schemes. Alrighty. The next step in vassal management is to see why everyone else is upset with us. As we can see here, for the most part, we have a bunch of opinion malice due to us being a sin and us having very low personal diplomacy. One thing we could do, if we wanted to increase that, we could assign our wife to assist us with court politics. She only provides +2, but that minus 10 penalty has now changed, and instead of being minus 10, we're only losing 8 from personal diplomacy. So that is one thing you can do. In addition to that, you can send gifts to people. We can also, if we wanted to, go down the diplomacy tree to go for befriending people. As you can see here, this allows us to unlock the befriend scheme. You can then use this to either literally befriend people, at which point they will get a +60 opinion modifier of you, and in addition to that, you can also just try to sway people outright. So, if we click on our other powerful vassal who does not like us, this man right here, we can try to sway him. We have a 93% success chance due to us being a scholar, the fact that our rank is higher than his, our personal diplomacy, which provides a flat number. As you can see here, we have 4 diplomacy, multiply that by 2, and it becomes 8, and the minimum chance is 20%. It will take almost 2 years. So, because he is not on our council, Andy's skills aren't the greatest. His diplomacy is okay, his stewardship is okay, but we don't want to upset the other counselors by firing them. We're going to go ahead and just start this scheme to sway him. You can always have at least one scheme going at a time, either hostile or friendly, and in this case, we're going to use this time to make sure we're actually doing something with it, and we're going to try to increase his opinion of us. So, that's very important to consider. Let's go ahead and take a look at what other problems are currently plaguing our realm. If we go to the character finder and then we sort by opinion yet again, let's see what everyone is upset about. First thing we're going to want to do is make sure they are a landed character. That's mostly whose opinion we care about, and let's see what the issue is. Obviously, he is a rival, which provides a negative 60 opinion. There's not too much we can really do about that. minus 45. Again, no particular issues other than just traits and modifiers. Short reign will go way over time. There's nothing we can do about impatient, stubborn, or ambitious at this moment in time. We are currently working to sway this count, so we don't have to worry about that at this moment in time. And it looks like that seems to be the major issues. We have a title claimant here. Anyone who is your direct title claimant will get a minus 20 opinion malice. Again, nothing we can do about that. Sorry, this character here, I apologize. As you can see, title claimant minus 20. Unless he were to die and his claim goes away, there's nothing we can do about that. And it looks like that seems to be the major issues. So, as you can see, there is a lot of instability here. Lots of characters don't like us, and lots of characters don't like us by quite a bit. So, this is where lifestyles come in handy. Let's see if we can't try to raise the opinion of our characters. If we go towards here, we can do it in one of two ways. You can either get dread, which is a measure of how feared you are. If all of your vassals are extremely afraid of you, as you see here, intimidated or, in the case, terrified, they cannot start any hostiles against you, such as joining a faction or starting a war if they are absolutely terrified about you. If they have a cowardly personality, they are less likely to act against you. If they are brave, they are less impacted by dread. So, how does one get dread? Well, there are a couple different things that do it. First off is your traits. We don't have any traits that increase over time dread, but there are definitely a handful. Dread is located here, and we have a natural dread of 0. A trait like compassionate automatically reduces it, as you can see. Traits. Reduces it by 15, whereas something like being a torturer is going to increase it by 50% dread gain. So, something to keep in mind. Now, what kind of character are we? We are an impatient, stubborn, and deceitful man. So, plotting is sort of in our nature. In addition to that, we are an impatient, so we have hostile scheme power increase, and we are stubborn. So, we don't sound like a particular nice guy. Perhaps it behooves us to go down a route which increases our dread. So, if we choose something like the Intimidation Focus here, Natural Dread plus 30, let's go ahead and give that a shot. So, this will let us fabricate secrets, which, with hooks on characters, we can prevent them from joining factions. In addition to that, we can try to make things better for us. So let's go ahead and do that as our form of vassal management. As mentioned, the other way to go down is to improve the character's opinions of you outright, such as defensive negotiation, which increases independent rulers, i.e. foreign nations by 15, shorter truces, things of that nature. So this is the other route to do it. In addition to that, you can assign your counselor to doing domestic affairs, which increases vassal opinion by this number divided by 2. Our chancellor is particularly poor, but it doesn't look like there's much of a better spot for him. One thing we could do, as you see here, he has a skill of 4 and a stewardship of 12, so it might behoove us to go ahead and switch these two characters. If you click on this little icon here, we can go and find our other character, Chancellor Duke here, go by rank, and let's go ahead and switch their positions. Our Chancellor and hit swap, and now we have an 11 skill and a 12 skill, which is much better than a 4 and a 14. We'll assign him to domestic affairs and increase opinion. We're going to let the game run for a little bit, and we'll talk about that. As you can see here, we are also directly over our domain limit. This reduces by vassal opinion by 10, domain taxes, and domain levies. The 3 recently acquired holdings that we have cause no penalties, so we're only over our domain limit by 1. This hasn't ticked over yet, but you're going to notice immediately after it does, all of a sudden, we have over domain limit minus 40. That is something you really have to consider. That is a horrendous opinion penalty. In addition to that, we get minus 80% taxes and minus 80% levies. So let's go ahead and take a look at what duchies we own. We own the Kingdom of Aquitaine, the Kingdom of West Francia, and all these individual counties. So our capital is located here in this duchy, in particular the Duchy of Valois. We can create this title at the cost of 250 gold for 300 prestige, and it encompasses all of these provinces here. So let's go ahead and do that. Not only will that make this the de jure liege of these particular characters here, it'll also give us a bunch of prestige, so why not? Alrighty, Now let's see where our other titles are located. So this is within our capital duchy, so we might want to keep a track on that. These, however, are not. So we might want to go about passing these out. So if we look here, we own all of those in New Orleans. Let's go ahead and try to pass some of these away. If we go to the character finder yet again, we can then find unlanded characters like so. Sort by opinion. Not a ruler. There we are. Okay, we need them to be a man. Alrighty, and preferably not. There we go. Preferably not part of a house, so they're not in line to inherit anything. And in theory, we can go ahead and start passing out some of this land. So, for instance, this character here. In general, you can sort it by opinion so that whoever these new vassals are like you, and ideally you want them to be part of your culture group. Preferably your culture outright, so let's go ahead and try to find some Frenchmen. Alrighty, so let's go ahead and start handing out some of these lands. You can't hand out land to Archbishops, as you can see here, so we're going to have to go to the next person down the list. Alrighty, so let's just start handing some of this out. In general, you want to keep your vassals weak, so you want to make sure that you don't grant, let's say, all of the titles to this character here. It might not be a good idea. You kind of want to keep everything segregated. So, Gene here, let's go ahead and grant him a title. Okay, next. Let's keep passing out these titles. Sorry, I apologize. And last but not least, why not this character right here? The county, that one there. Okay. We'll hang on to everything else for now. Alright, so now that we have reduced our domain limit below 6, and if you don't start the game as such a large kingdom, you can make it much prettier. In general, you want to hang on to all of the counties within your duchy. So ideally, the 6 out of 6 we owned would all be within this land, but in this case, we have one outside it. There's not much we can do about it from where we started the game. But now that we have have an appropriate amount of holdings in our domain limit, you're going to see as the month ticks over, now they have a plus 36 opinion of us rather than a minus 4. So let's go ahead and let this start. And we're going to see the sway chance go. As you can see, this is now progressing. We have gotten a call to arms from the King of Bulgaria. I will accept this, but we're just going to pretend it didn't happen for the sake of this video. Okay. While this is going on and we wait for time to pass, we're going to go ahead and talk about factions. Factions are a number of things. If the popular opinion in counties you control is particularly low, you might have peasant uprisings in those factions, which reduce control and start a rebellion army that you might have to fight. If you have enough disgruntled vassals, they might try to make you abdicate to your next heir. They might try to take the county themselves. They might try to claim the kingdom for another claimant. In general, this list of factions here is sort of an expression of characters' dissatisfaction with your rule. So you want to avoid having factions. Ways you can prevent characters from having a faction with us is A, if they are your ally. In this case, we have an alliance due to marriage, as you can see here. If you have a strong hook on someone, they cannot join a faction, and if they are terrified of you, they can no longer join a faction as well. As you can see, our dread is ticking nicely. Our spy master has uncovered a secret, apparently. I see. We're going to go ahead and change our spy master to disrupting schemes for the moment. We no longer need that. That was for the last episode. Alrighty, this is continuing to progress. Our nephew has created a cadet branch, and unfortunately, it looks like this is what I was talking about before. We had a hook on her as a strong one. The truth has now been revealed. If we go to our hooks in secret, you're going to notice that our hook on her has expired, and the reason is because the secret is out. Oof. Alrighty, we're going to skip through all of these events. I'm really just trying to showcase this sway mechanic right here. You can influence this by, as you mentioned, the rank, scholar, diplomacy. If you have traits which are the opposite of each other, it will reduce it. If you have traits that interact well with each other, for instance, both generous, it increases the chance. Our niece has been taken prisoner, and swaying should finish here. Alrighty, as you can see there, he now has a plus 25 opinion of us. So if we go back to him, he is now at minus 11. So that's one way to keep your vassals happy if they want a seat on the council and their stats are horrendous, or in this case where we simply don't have enough to pass it along. As mentioned, factions are sort of transgressions against you. They do not count as crimes. You cannot imprison someone for being part of a faction, but you do want to manage them. If characters like you, they will not join factions against you. In addition, if we go ahead and take a look at our Archbishop, another important vassal to handle, we can go here and let's go ahead and reset this to defaults for a second. Alrighty, and let's go to Archbishop. Sorry. Let's go ahead and find him here. Is he in our court? I apologize about this. Whoops. There he is. Sorry, I apologize. He has a -1 opinion of us. So it is very important to make sure that your Archbishop of your realm likes you. If you are a Orthodox character, it will be your Patriarch. Depending on your faith, this character will change. But so long as your religion has a head of faith, you have sort of a representative in your realm. If they don't like you, it's not the end of the world. But if they have more than -10 opinion of you, i.e. -15, they can actually start acting against you. If we check our issues here, we're actually going to see not endorsed by our Archbishop. This Archbishop, the character right there, does not have a positive opinion of you. Otherwise, he will not provide us with any levies. In addition to that, as you can see, if it goes below -10, he'll start interfering in your affairs. He can force you to divorce characters or take an extremely large penalty. He can do all sorts of negative things that you really don't want to have happen. So, it is important to keep their opinion of you as well. We might want to sway him. After this one is finished, you can send him gold, just another key to the puzzle that you want to make sure that you have handled. Okay, so as you see here, he controls all of the church holdings. If we go like this and we hit send gift, now all of a sudden he'll start providing us with all his levy as well as all of the taxes that he owes us. Okay, my daughter is apparently an adulteress, and as a result she has been thrown out of the house and in jail. And that's about it as far as factions and feudal management goes, as well as positive schemes. The last thing is going to be feudal contracts. So if we go ahead and click on a character, let's go ahead and find one. We do not have any hooks on anyone, I don't believe. Nope. So if we go to here though, and we click on our Duke, he has a -31 opinion of it. If you right click him here, you're going to see feudal contracts. So rather than having realm-wide laws like in CK2, which affect the taxes, the levies, and things like that, you have an individual contract with every single character. You can change them at high, low. This is another way to squeeze opinion out of characters, although in general, the costs of reducing it aren't really worth the +5 opinion. But depending on who you are, you might want to take it up. You can increase the opinion increase the taxes or the levy by 10% for another 15 penalty if you'd like. In addition to that, there are all these special contracts that are unlocked with different technologies, making army maintenance, increasing prestige, making it so they no longer pay levies and instead more money. There's all sorts of things. You can force them to have a partition gavel kind succession to split apart their realm. If you have a particularly strong duke, for instance, this one right here, where he controls 2 duchies and a large portion of land, we could in theory modify the contract to do forced partition so that it would split up all of his titles upon his death. This is another way you can sort of manage the strength of your vassals. Okay, in addition to that, if you increase their contribution, it means they have less soldiers for themselves and less money for themselves. However, there's one thing to pay attention to. If you have a hook on a character, you can modify the contract without any sort of penalty. But if you do something that they deem unfair, for instance, forced partition, which weakens them, you'll see that it is considered an act of tyranny, causing your subjects to lose 20 opinion of you. The only way to circumvent this is by making it more fair, i.e. providing one part of the contract that benefits them and one part of the contract that benefits you. If we do 2 things, it can also maintain fair. It sort of depends on what the AI feels is a just compensation for changing these levels. In addition to that, you can see there, how the modifiers change with each law, so you don't have to enforce it and then find out what the changes were. So that is how you adjust feudal contracts, and that's why they can be useful. Like I said, partition can split across realms, you can squeeze out extra income from republics, all sorts of different things that you can do with it as you go on playing more. As mentioned, it is tyrannical to make a contract more negative unless you give them something back, unless you use a hook on them. If you have high enough dread, as mentioned here, characters begin to get afraid of you, and you can begin doing tyrannical actions. Not because they don't like you, but because they won't act against you. If a character happens to be sufficiently afraid of you as your dread increases, that they can no longer join factions, they will simply be listed here. So, once they become terrified, they will be listed here. If they are intimidated, however, they are less likely but can still join them. This is the one way to act as a tyrannical ruler and sort of still get away with it. You can sort of check your relationship with my people by going over them, and here it will indicate whether or not they are terrified or intimidated of you or not. So that's kind of how you pay attention and check whether they are. In this case, we don't have anyone that is, but that's where you would go to look. Thus concludes our episode on vassal management, feudal contracts, and factions, and I hope to see you in the next one. Thank you so much for watching.